militarized zone to conduct a precision strike training exercise. The bombers, which can carry up to 42,000 pounds worth of explosives each, practiced attack capabilities during the mission by dropping inactive weapons on the isolated Pilsung Range in South Korea. Following the mission, the commander of U.S. Air Forces in the Pacific released a statement saying North Korea's actions are a threat to our allies, partners, and homeland. Let me be clear. If called upon, we are trained, equipped, and ready to unleash the full lethal capability of our allied air forces. While the U.S. is showing that it's prepared to take military action against North Korea, Secretary of Defense James Mattis made it clear yesterday that diplomatic efforts are continuing to be the focus of U.S. leaders to address North Korea's nuclear ambitions.
This is a diplomatically led international effort to stop a worldwide threat that they are bringing to bear. So it is led by diplomacy right now. There are United Nations efforts underway, as you're aware, certainly our Secretary of State. And we also see economic aspects to the diplomatic effort to divert them from this wrong path.
And U.S. defense officials tell us they are now planning to conduct a flight test of the THAAD missile defense system at the Pacific Spaceport in Kodiak, Alaska, which would shoot down any short and medium range missiles that were headed for the United States. Leland.
All right, Garrett Tenney live there. Garrett, thank you. Joining us with some perspective, Bruce Klingner, the Heritage Foundation, formerly Deputy Director, Division Chief at the CIA for North Korea. Bruce, nice to see you. B-1 bombers flying up to the DMZ, this THAAD missile test system. THAAD systems also in South Korea. Do North Koreans care about this?
Really, this kind of a military response is more a signal of resolve and, for our allies, rather than a hope that North Korea will be deterred from their actions. The B-1 is not nuclear capable, but in the past we have flown that along with nuclear capable B-2s and B-52s to the area.
All right, so where does this go from here? We just saw the president in Hamburg with the Chinese president, and at one point he seemed just so confident in the Chinese for doing something. That was the chocolate cake summit at Mar-a-Lago. Then we had these tweets where he says basically, oh well, we counted on the Chinese, they didn't do anything, and now he's back sitting at the table hoping they do something.
I think there's been a little bit of a flip-flopping during the presidential campaign. He was very, very critical of China, saying they could solve North Korea virtually overnight. Then during the Mar-a-Lago summit, as you pointed out, he thought that President Xi had promised to take a lot of action. We've heard that song before, that China has promised the same to every previous U.S. president, and we've always been disappointed. Now he's disappointed, but still hoping China may impose a heavy blow, as he wrote.
Is the issue that China doesn't have the ability, or they don't think it's worth it?
It's a bit of both. They clearly have the largest economic engagement with North Korea, but they are also extremely reluctant to impose any pressure because they fear any increase in pressure could cause either an explosion of North Korea lashing out or an implosion of the regime instability or regime collapse.
Well, and plus they're not the ones threatened by North Korea's weapons. You've met with the North Koreans, I know, as part of some of the U.S. teams of sort of ex-officials that go over and have the talks, if you will, before the talks. I want to get your thought on this piece from Charles Lane that he wrote. If the past 25 years have taught 3 generations of Kims anything, it is that its potential adversaries are incurably divided, both internally and among themselves, and will therefore tolerate threats and blackmail, even actual occasional conventional military attacks on South Korea, rather than forge the collective effort it would take to end the game once and for all. He's implying there's a way to end the game, and simply the United States, whether it be from any president, going back really to Clinton, didn't have the will to impose America's will on the rest of our allies. Agree?
Well, right now there's really an international consensus that negotiations is not the way to go. We've had 8 international agreements that did not succeed in getting North Korea to either never build the nukes or to give them up. So right now,
well, Wendy Sherman's still holding out hope, but everybody else is where you're at.
Right. Well, but especially after last year's nuclear tests, the international consensus is on the need for pressure and targeted financial measures. So we really have been pulling our punches. The UN, the EU, the U.S. did far stronger things on Iran than on North Korea, and the U.S. has pulled its punches even on its unilateral actions. I'm hoping the president's imposition of sanctions on one Chinese bank about 2 weeks ago, I'm hoping that's the first shoe of many to drop.
Is it fair to say that if the President of the United States decided the gloves come off, there's a long way between the gloves coming off and war. There's a lot more options that we have than we've used so far.
I believe so, and I think we need to pursue those rather than jumping into a preventative attack. Preemption is where we believe that North Korea is about to attack us, so we go first. A preventative attack, which is some people are advocating now, is we take them out, or take out a missile or the entire missile industry in North Korea to prevent them from completing development of that program. I think we're far too early for that.
So very quickly, options for the next couple of months. What do we watch for? What are the tripwires here for people to go, okay, the Trump administration's decided to get serious and do things the Obama administration hasn't been willing to do?
If you talk to people in the government who have been working sanctions for a long time, they'll say, I've got a list of North Korean and Chinese entities in my drawer, which I have evidence for and I could impose sanctions on tomorrow, but they've always been held back. It's what I call timid incrementalism. We dole out a few more entities to be sanctioned, North Korean, not Chinese, after each North Korean provocation. I think if you tell the your government, say, folks, whatever evidence you have, let's implement sanctions against those entities.
Well, sufficing to say, we'll have to watch and see if the Trump administration decides to not hold their punches anymore. Yeah. All right, a lot of tough talk. We'll see what happens. Bruce, appreciate your insights and your service. Long time in dangerous places. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, Liz.
All right, great interview. Back here at home, Republican Senator Ted Cruz is getting an earful